Hello Internet, welcome back to the channel. So I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually think about it before you keep watching, like genuinely sit with it for a second. Did Eren Yeager have a choice? Not was he justified or was he right or wrong, just did he actually have a choice? Because the show kind of makes it look like he did and then kind of makes it look like he didn't, and depending on which one you land on, your entire read of that story changes completely. And okay, Eren is just one example, but this is a thing that anime keeps doing. Like ReZero does it, Steins does it, and they all come to completely different conclusions, which is what makes this interesting to me. Because if the answer was obvious, they'd all agree, but they don't. So today we're looking at 3 shows that each take a swing at one of the oldest questions in philosophy, which is basically, do you actually have free will? Or are you just a character in a story that was already written? And the reason I think anime specifically is a good lens for this is because the genre does something philosophy textbooks don't, which is it makes you feel the weight of the question through people you care about. It's a lot harder to be detached about determinism when Subaru is screaming in the snow. Real quick, there are 3 main camps on this. Hard determinism says everything is already set. Your choices are just dominoes falling, and the feeling of choosing is basically a very convincing lie. Libertarian free will, not the political thing, says no, humans have genuine choice. We can actually do otherwise. And then compatibilism, which is kind of the, well, actually position, says free will and determinism can both be true depending on how you define free will, and that you can have meaningful choice inside a system with rules. Those 3 positions map almost perfectly onto the 3 shows we're covering today, which, again, they did not coordinate on. So, let's get into it. Okay, so we start with Steins, and if you haven't seen it, well, the elevator pitch is awkward, self-proclaimed mad scientist guy accidentally invents time travel via microwave, yes, microwave, uses it, immediately regrets it, spends the rest of the series trying to unfuck what he did. Simple enough, except it's not, because the show is not really about time travel, like at all. It's about what it actually costs to keep making a choice when every version of reality is telling you to stop. The philosophical framework here is what in philosophy is referred to as compatibilism, which is basically the well actually position in the free will debate. The idea is that determinism, meaning the universe has a structure and certain things are going to happen regardless, and free will, meaning your choices are real and they matter, can both be true at the same time. You can have meaningful agency inside a system with rules. And Steins is honestly one of the cleanest examples I've seen in any medium, anime or otherwise. So here's how it works in the show. The timeline has world lines, and on those world lines, certain events are fixed, like load-bearing walls in a building. You can renovate the whole house, but you cannot touch those walls or the whole thing comes down. And on the world line Okabe starts on, one of those walls is Mayuri dying. He cannot save her. He can change the day, the method, the exact sequence of events, but she dies every single time. And Okabe loops through it over and over, watches her die in like a dozen different ways, and keeps going anyway. That's the determinism part. The universe has rules and some of them are non-negotiable. But, and this is the part that matters, within those rules, Okabe still chooses. He chooses to keep looping when any reasonable person would have quit. He chooses to accept that saving Mayuri means losing Kurisu, which is its own whole thing. And then he chooses to do it anyway. The show isn't saying your choices are fake because the universe has a structure. It's saying your choices are real because you make them inside a universe that doesn't give a shit about you, and you make them anyway. The scene that really locks this in is the "this is the choice of Steins moment," which, if you know, you know, and if you don't, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to just trust me that it hits. Okabe gets a message from his future self telling him exactly what he has to do to reach the one world line where everyone survives. And what he has to do is watch Kurisu die in front of him and not stop it, and then fake it well enough that his past self doesn't intervene either. He has to choose to let it happen, and he does. And the show frames that as agency, not surrender. Like, yes, the roadmap came from the future. Yes, the destination was handed to him, but nobody made him drive. That's compatibilism doing exactly what it says on the tin. The map exists, you're still the one who has to move. Now, Steins 0, because a lot of people treat it like optional DLC, and I think that's a mistake thematically. Steins 0 is what happens when Okabe doesn't make the choice. When he gets to that moment and just breaks, looks at the cost and goes, no, I can't. And what follows is not freedom. It's not peace. It's a worse timeline, a world war, more death, more loss, everything he was trying to prevent just arriving through a different door. And that's the quiet gut punch of Zero. Refusing to choose is also a choice. Opting out of the game doesn't pause the game, it just means you're no longer playing and the outcome keeps happening without you. Okabe in Zero didn't escape fate, he just abdicated. And fate went, okay, cool, and kept going. So between the two, what Steins Gate is actually arguing is this. Yeah, the structure exists. Yeah, you cannot tear it down, but inside it, your choices are real. They cost something real, and the worst possible move is pretending you don't have to make them, which is honestly a kind of bleak form of hope, but it is hope. Now to our second case, which is Re:Zero. So the premise is, let's say, pretty simple on the surface. Subaru Natsuki, regular dude from Japan, gets yeeted into a fantasy world with zero explanation, zero tutorial, zero starting gear. Like, imagine booting up Elden Ring with no weapons, no map, and no idea what a gray site is. That's Subaru, except worse because, at least in Elden Ring, dying just sends you back to the last checkpoint. Oh wait, yeah, that's exactly what happens to Subaru. He dies and resets, except it's not a game. The show calls it Return by Death. He actually dies, and then snaps back to a fixed point in the past with full memory of everything that just happened to him. Which sounds like a cheat code, right? Infinite lives, just keep trying until you get it right. Except, and here's the thing, what in philosophy is referred to as conditional libertarianism, which is basically the idea that free will is real, but it's not unconditional. Like, yeah, you can make choices, but whether those choices actually do anything depends on stuff outside your control. Your circumstances, what you know, what you have access to, and maybe most importantly, what kind of headspace you're in when you're making them. Freedom isn't a yes or no thing, it's more like a volume knob, and a lot of things can turn it down. And Subaru's knob keeps getting turned all the way down, because here's what the show figures out pretty fast. Having infinite attempts and actually being able to change something are two completely different things. Subaru has the information, sure, he knows who's gonna die, he knows roughly when, he knows what triggers what, but knowing isn't enough. He doesn't have the power, the connections, the trust, sometimes even the physical ability to do anything useful with what he knows. And then on top of that, he's dying repeatedly, violently, with full sensory experience every single time. Like, that's not a power, that's PTSD with a respawn mechanic. And the show lets that sit for a while before it really goes there, but when it goes, oh, it goes. Season 2, the I Have Nothing scene. If you've seen it, you know. If you haven't, okay, so Subaru has been grinding through one of the worst stretches of loops in the series. People keep dying, nothing is sticking, he is running on fumes and cope and whatever is left of his self-image at that point, which it turns out is not a lot. And he goes to Emilia and he basically lays it all out. Everything he thinks he is to her, every reason she should rely on him, every role he's been performing this whole time. And she, very gently, tells him that none of it is true, that she doesn't need any of that from him. And he just stops. I have nothing. And that's it. That's the thesis of the whole show in 4 words. Because what that scene is actually showing you is that free will without a stable sense of self is basically non-functional. Subaru has been making choices this whole time, technically, but every single one of those choices was built on a version of himself that was fake, performed confidence, manufactured purpose, a guy cosplaying as the protagonist because if he stopped doing that, he'd have to face the fact that he has no idea who he actually is. And when Emilia takes the costume off, there's nothing underneath it. So he can't choose. Not really. Not in that moment. Because you need a self to choose from, and his is gone. That's what the show is quietly arguing that a lot of philosophy kind of glosses over. Agency isn't just about whether the rules of the universe allow you to make a decision. It's about whether you are in a condition to make one. And repeated trauma, the specific kind where you die and come back and die and come back and nobody around you knows it's happening and you can't tell anyone, that doesn't just hurt you, it dismantles the thing that makes choice possible in the first place. And then there's the other layer, which is that even when Subaru does manage to change things, the world kind of balances it out. Save someone here, something goes wrong somewhere else.
The light novel gets into this more than the anime does, but the implication is there. His freedom is real, but it's not free. Every choice is a transaction, and he doesn't always know what he's paying until after the fact. So compared to Steins Gate, which says your choices are real and they cost something, and the worst thing you can do is opt out, Re:Zero is saying something a little darker. It's saying that even if you have every opportunity in the world, even if the universe gives you infinite do-overs, the thing that might actually stop you is you, your psychology, your trauma, your inability to figure out who you are underneath all the things you've been pretending to be, which is pretty bleak, honestly, but also kind of the most honest thing the show could have said. And finally, Attack on Titan. And look, I'm going to try to be as spoiler considerate as I can here, but like if you haven't finished AOT at this point, I genuinely don't know what to tell you. It's been out. Go watch it. I'll wait. Okay, so Eren Yeager, the guy who wanted freedom so bad, he literally killed like 80% of the world's population trying to get it. Totally normal guy. Very chill. No notes. The philosophical framework here is what in philosophy is referred to as hard determinism, which is basically the position that everything that happens was always going to happen. Your choices aren't really choices, they're just dominoes falling in a sequence that was set up before you got there. And AOT, especially the manga ending, goes really hard on this idea in a way that honestly made a lot of people uncomfortable, and I think that discomfort is kind of the point. So here's the thing about Eren that the show takes forever to actually tell you. He saw it all, like all of it. When he made contact with Historia in Season 3 and accidentally accessed the founding Titan's memories, he saw the future, his future, the rumbling, his death, all of it. And then he did it anyway. So the question the show is asking is, if you see your future and then you go do it, did you choose it? And the paths mechanic is where this gets really fucked up, like genuinely. Because what the paths are showing you is that Titan shifters don't just inherit power when they eat someone, they inherit memories, past and future, non-linearly. So Eren, in his basement writing letters to Armin, Eren on the boat telling Armin he has no idea what's going to happen, and Eren at the end who knows everything, they're all the same person operating with different amounts of information at different points in a loop that, depending on how you read it, was never actually breakable.
Like, was Eren the author of the story? Or was he just the character who had the misfortune of reading ahead? And here's the angle I find actually interesting, which is that we experience the entire story through other people's POV, mostly Armin's by the end. We don't get full access to Eren's internal experience until it's basically over. And even then, it's through a conversation he's having with Armin after the fact, which means everything we think we know about Eren's choices, his motivations, whether he was lucid or desperate or broken or calculated, we're getting that filtered through Armin, who loved him, who didn't want him to be a monster. So you can read the ending as Eren exercising total agency. He decided, he acted, he knew the cost, he paid it. Compatibilism, basically. Meaningful choice inside a determined structure. Or you can read it as Eren being a guy who saw a predetermined future, couldn't find a way out of it, and chose to be the one driving rather than the one being driven, which is not really freedom. That's just picking which seat you want on a train that's already moving. Or, and this is the reading I keep coming back to, you can say we genuinely don't have enough information to know because Armin doesn't have enough information to know, and Isayama kind of knew exactly what he was doing by structuring it that way. Isayama has talked in interviews about how the ending changed significantly, editorial pressure, the usual stuff that happens when a manga runs as long as AOT did. And honestly, the ambiguity might be partly a product of that. But I think even if it was fully intentional, the answer would still be the same, which is we don't know. We're not supposed to know. The show is not going to tell you whether Eren had a choice because the show doesn't think there's a clean answer. And neither do I, honestly. What I will say is this. The scariest version of the AOT ending is the one where Eren did have full free will, saw every option, and still chose the rumbling because he genuinely couldn't find anything better. Not because he was evil, not because he was broken, but because he looked at the full picture and went, yeah, this is the least bad version. That's not a villain arc, that's just a really horrifying form of utilitarian logic. And the show just kind of leaves that on the table and walks away, which, respect, honestly. Alright, anime folk, that's it for this video. So yeah, we just spent like 15 minutes asking whether any of these characters actually had a choice, and the honest answer is, It depends on who you ask, and also which show, and also maybe what mood you're in when you watch it. Steins Gate says yes. You have a choice. The universe has rules, and you're still the one who has to move, and refusing to move is its own kind of choice, with its own kind of consequences. ReZero says, okay, sure, technically yes, but good luck with that when your brain is eating itself from the inside. And AOT just kind of looks you in the eye and goes, I'm not telling you, figure it out, and then walks away. Which is honestly kind of what real philosophy does too, so respect across the board, I guess. But before I go, I got 3 questions, and I genuinely want to see what you think in the comments, because this is the kind of thing where everyone's gonna land somewhere different. 1. Do you think Eren actually chose the rumbling, or was he just the guy who had to be there when it happened? Because those are 2 very different things, and I feel like which one you pick says something about you. 2. If you had returned by death, like actually had it, would it break you? Like, be honest with yourself, because Subaru's whole thing is that most people would not survive what he goes through psychologically, and I think a lot of us would like to think we'd be built different, but would we? And 3, Okabe goes through all of that, all of it, multiple timelines, watching people he loves die over and over, and he still chooses to keep going. Is that the most human thing in any of these shows? Or is it just the most stubborn? I genuinely don't know. I'll be in the comments reading your answers and judging you affectionately. Okay, I'll stop yapping. If you made it this far, genuinely, thank you. Like the video if any part of this broke your brain a little bit. Subscribe if you want more of this kind of stuff. Share it with whoever in your friend group has opinions about anime and philosophy and too much time on their hands, so basically your nerdiest friend, you know who they are. And yeah, that's it. I hope you have an awesome day, and peace.